Good morning. Good morning. Let's call this meeting to order. By way of introductions, James Erskine, Everglades Coordinator with Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission and Chair of the working group for today's meeting. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank everybody on our audience for attending today. I will remind everybody this is being recorded and webcast live, and a link to the live webcast is on YouTube. On the EvergladesRestoration.gov homepage can be found, the links. There will be one opportunity for public comment today. And I would like to encourage anybody and everybody who would like to make a public comment, submit a card to the staff at OERI. And if you're online, we will call for online participation in public comment as that time comes. Those are the specifics. Okay. I would also like to just take a moment and send a few thank yous out. OERI staff had 2 workshops scheduled this week, one on Florida Bay systems and one on the Everglades Ridge and Sluice systems. Both of those workshops are extremely informative, and they're both available in a broadcast format on the OERI webpage with the YouTube link. If you did not participate, they were well attended, but I would encourage everyone to go back and take a look at them if you had not participated in them or did not have the time. And I'll thank your staff for their setup and cooperation on pulling those together, both on the technology side and on the planning side. There will be some outputs from those workshops. There'll be a white paper written, and that white paper will cover some of the consensus opinions that were discussed, some of the challenges that were discussed, and an overall summary of the workshops for both of them. I'd also like to send a thank you to U.S. Geological Survey. I reached out to them with work coming online. I'm looking at the daily percentile water levels, and when work comes online, the gauges in Big Cypress did not have all of the information that the gauges for water conservation areas bring in Everglades National Park had. So I reached out to Sarah Hyder and Brian McCluskey and asked about adding the additional information and additional display profiles for Big Cypress National Preserve and Water Conservation Area 2. Those are 2 things that we're looking at in Everglades Restoration right now. Big Cypress as part of work, and Water Conservation Area 2 as new regulation schedules for operation plans. And within a very short order, they had updated all the display graphs to be able to view that. And I think both the public, as work comes online, will find that helpful. You can look at the water levels compared to where they were historically with the daily percentiles, and for changes being proposed for Water Conservation Area 2, they're effective. So thanks to U.S. Geological Survey. I'll pass the mic to Adam.
Yeah, James, good morning, everybody. Sorry for the dark conditions here, the lighting. We'll work on that in the future. It's not pre-Halloween. We're not setting up for that. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. So we're out to cover today. I don't see any VIPs, and I'll just let the officials here today. I'd like to say, Palm Beach County, if you're listening, thank you. We're really appreciative of the time and effort of staff to put this together. And can't do it without the community support to move these meetings around to make it convenient for those that were down in Fort Lauderdale for the last 2 days that live up here, and trying to keep it moving around into the community. But I'll save my comments for later.
Haley, would you like to announce the rules for the ground rules for the Zoom platform?
Yes. Are you guys able to hear me?
Don't have it.
Okay. All right. I can get a mic here.
Good morning, everybody. I just have a few notes on our Zoom platform and how we run our meetings here. Members of the public who have not provided their name or affiliation will be removed by the administrator for security purposes. Please note that all attendees are automatically muted and are in listen-only mode. Please refrain from raising your hand until the public comment period has been announced. Raised hands before the public comment period will be lowered by the administrator. Once the public comment period does begin, please use the raise your hand feature located at the bottom of your Zoom window, and we will call on you and unmute your microphone one at a time. When you have been called on to speak, please ensure that all other devices are muted to avoid any background noises and interruptions. If any attendee experiences any Zoom technical issues during the meeting, you can access the webcast on YouTube at EvergladesRestoration.gov. James, I have no other instructions.
Thank you. For our members, we have 2 microphones on the tables as well. We're going to go right to a member whip around, and I'll just let you know they're there. And there's a little switch on the front to turn them on. And then they're just on.
Good morning, Stephanie Romaniak with the U.S. Geological Survey. So I just wanted to let everyone know generally what's happening at the USGS. I think there's been questions and observations about things that are maybe falling through the cracks. And so I just wanted to explain that a little bit. So the USGS has 5 divisions, or we call them mission areas. And one of them is the ecosystems mission area, and that's where our ecological research in the Everglades is conducted out of, and the Greater Everglades Ecosystem Priority Ecosystem Science Program. So those sit in the ecosystems mission area. And so of the 5 mission areas, the ecosystems mission area is the one that has sort of been stopped from working. So we're unable to use congressionally appropriated funding to continue our work at this time. That's not the case for the other mission areas, but it is the case for us. We understand that the determination will be made in October, I believe, on whether we can continue to work on our appropriated funding. So there's a little bit of nuance that I won't get into, but I'm happy to talk to anyone after the meeting. So some of those others, so if you work with the Water Science Center, for example, and they're working on water funding, they will continue to operate as normal. However, nothing's quite normal because there have been a lot of staff losses and turnover. So even the Water Science Center, even if their source of funding gives them the ability to work, they don't have the people to really do the work they were doing anymore. And so some of our partners have been contacting us about things like aid stations and monitoring that is no longer happening or cannot continue because of some of these staff losses. And so that's just one thing I wanted to point out, because I know I've been getting some questions about that, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about how that works. So we're ready to do the work for those of us that are here, and we're doing what we can within the constraints that we have. But you will notice some losses of capability, and I hope that we can fix that in the near term. So again, I'm happy to talk with anyone later today. I'll reach out to the Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Karen Bonzak with NOAA, Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. Just wanted to share that we have a water quality protection program meeting coming up in 2 weeks. It's actually going to be adjacent to the currently planned Florida's Coral Reef Coordination Team that's going to be happening in the Florida Keys and Marathon. The 2 days after that meeting on October 8th and 9th, we're going to be convening our water quality protection program. That group is co-chaired by DEP and EPA. And the first day, we're going to have a steering committee meeting where we'll touch base on a slew of different water quality projects that are going on in the Keys. And then on Thursday, October 9th, we're going to be having a mini research symposium where we are inviting various project PIs for recently completed projects, many of which have been funded through EPA's South Florida program, to give us updates on the status of the research. So I'm mentioning this to you all because there's some pretty interesting projects I think that will be presented. So among them, a update from the Georgia Southern University about the impacts of submarine groundwater discharge on seagrass in Florida Bay. We'll be hearing about modeling water quality and phytoplankton blooms in Florida Bay. Looking at Waxahachie discharge and impacts from Hurricane Ian on the Southwest Florida shelf. So lots of cool stuff. That meeting will take place in person in Marathon, but we will be broadcasting live for listen only. So you can watch from the comfort of wherever you are if you are interested in tuning in. And I can send a link to the agendas and the website through, I guess, Adam, I can send them to you. So if anyone wants to find those later, join. October 8th and 9th.
Morning, everybody. Mark Raines, Chief Science Officer, State of Florida, Department of Environmental Protection. Looking forward to hearing the updates on our joint efforts to protect and restore the Everglades. I do want to take a moment and offer a word of thanks. As we know, we reached a historic agreement between the State of Florida and the Department of the Army that allows the State of Florida to take a leading role in pushing some of the key projects forward in CERT. I think this is cooperative federalism at its best. It leverages the dual authorities of federal and state governments while simultaneously sort of deferring to and unleashing the local expertise and sense of urgency that we have here in the state of Florida. I think that's going to allow us to propel our projects forward faster and deliver benefits of restoration to the people and ecosystems of South Florida. I know it wasn't an easy agreement to reach, and it's going to be even more challenging to implement. There's almost innumerable moving parts in the restoration and protection of the Everglades. Most of them are going to have to adjust, and that's going to take some time. But I do want to thank everybody who helped us reach this agreement. But more importantly, I'd like to thank everybody who's going to be essential in implementing. Looking forward to seeing those projects move forward faster.
Good morning. Tim Green, Acting Everglades Program Supervisor from Fish and Wildlife Service. Good morning. Happy to be here. Larry Williams, our state supervisor, was hoping to participate in these virtually, but he's had another priority issue come up, so he's probably not going to be able to participate today. All the representing Fish and Wildlife. I guess I'd start off by saying that I also heard that the workshops went really well yesterday, the day before. I had a couple of my staff participate. Sounds like there were some good discussions. Looking forward to seeing that white paper and hearing about kind of what the targets are for those systems and how we'll be able to meet those targets given the constraints of the federal system. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. And then I just mentioned that the biggest priority for my team right now is finalizing the operational design, deviation, biological opinion. So they're working very hard on that, and we're planning on getting our draft and recording in a few years. So everything falls in place.
Good morning, Jennifer Reynolds with the South Florida Water Management District. So we're a small group today. And I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the agenda, but along with everything else that's in flux right now with our programs, our personnel are in flux too, right? And we have a lot of vacancies on the working group and the science coordination group and the task force. And that's putting us all in an interesting position. And the agreement that Dr. Raines talked about just a moment ago, is another thing that we're going to have to figure out. How do we streamline the leadership engagement on this program so that it doesn't become a Gordian knot, right? Because we already have a lot of groups that work on Everglades restoration. And so I would just challenge us to think through, this is an opportunity for us to do some of the things we've been talking about for years, which is figuring out where our lanes are and how we make what we do more efficient to deliver results to the program, right? And we have been getting better and better and better at that. And so I think this is a challenging time for all of our agencies to work through. And so I would just encourage us to think of it as an opportunity as we take care of each other, but also work toward the mission. We have a presentation today. Mindy will be telling you about our projects and how we're implementing some of the changes that we're seeing with the recent agreements. And so I won't steal her thunder, but I'll just point toward that as we look at that. And then the last thing that I'll just mention is that there is a ton of really great science going on right now that we're sharing across the agencies. And I'm super excited for us to think about how do we leverage that science to help us propel this program forward.
Good morning, Ed Smith, DP. I represent the working group for the department. Just great to be here this morning. Good to see all the people that are here. It's a little smaller group, but there's a lot to be said for the folks that are here. On my way in this morning, I realized that this Well, next week will mark 11 years I've been a member of the working group. So I've seen a lot of changes, and I think echoing Jim Reynolds' comments about the MOU and MOA and the work that has to be done, I can't think of a better team that's in place right now to make it happen. We've had really good meetings. I think people understand the challenges that are in front of us, but I think everyone right now is rising up to meet the challenges, identifying all the hurdles we got to get over and looking for ways to get to it. It's great to come to these meetings with everybody coming to the meeting with an attitude of yes, we can. I know it's going to be challenging, but I really think based on my 11 years of experience, we've got the right people in the right place right now to succeed. We've got to thank the legislature and the governor for their support in all of this. We've got record funding yet again this year. We've crossed the $500 million barrier again, another year in a row where we've got over $500 million for Everglades restoration. DEP's just put forth our legislative budget request. We're pushing that envelope again this year, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that same support going forward. And just looking forward to a great meeting today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gina Ralph with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville District. First, I do want to thank the Department of Navy for their 2 workshops yesterday. And I think one of the key takeaways from yesterday's workshop was the idea of incremental benefits and incremental restoration to ensure that we are putting the right quantity of water in the right place and the environment can accept it and thrive based upon those water depths or that water flow. So nobody's losing sight of the long-term ecosystem restoration goals, but we want to be sure that we're putting the water in the right place to prepare and promote ridge and slough topography, that we are able to get the desired restoration condition in the long term. So it may seem we're being a little bit more conservative in the near term, but we're doing that for a specific reason and a specific purpose. So I do encourage everybody to review those workshop videos from yesterday. And thank you again for DOI for hosting. I'd also like to share that the Corps of Engineers and the South Florida Water Management District, in conjunction with the Working Group Science Coordination Group, will host 2 workshops for the integrated delivery schedule. The first will be a listening session. It will be October 7th. And the second one is an in-person workshop on November 19th. So I encourage everybody to participate in those forums. I'd also like to invite everybody to the Restoration Coordination Verification or Recover October monthly meeting. We will be hosting a meeting covering new tools to identify and manage harmful algal blooms, concentrating in the northern estuaries and Lake Okeechobee. Dr. Mark Rains will share his latest tool, and Dr. Cassandra Armstrong will also share the tools they've been working with in conjunction with the University of Florida. If you have any questions, you can visit the Recover website, or you can catch me during one of our breaks. To echo Jen's comment on the importance of science, I'm happy to report that the Corps of Engineers did provide Recover with an increase of up to $3.5 million for next fiscal year for science and monitoring to support Recover efforts. Recover has a plan to spend all of that money, and we're super excited about it. So thank you for those who continue to advocate on behalf of science and funding to support SERP. And then finally, I would be remiss, and I see Nick in the audience, if I didn't mention the upcoming National Conference for Ecosystem Restoration, which will be held April 13th through 16th in Omaha, Nebraska. It is a great forum for scientists and program managers across the nation to share lessons learned and learn new information about large-scale ecosystem restoration. There will be a dedicated session on Recover, and there's also a dedicated session on the second periodic SERP update modeling. So I encourage you all to grab a card. I left them at the front table. or come talk with myself or Nick during the break. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm John Moore with the Department of Environmental Protection's Office of Water Policy and Ecosystem Restoration team. We've got a team in West Palm Beach, some engineers, biologists, field compliance staff, and we essentially fulfilled boots on the ground regulatory arm in this process. And you know, Ed had mentioned 11 years with this group. This meeting actually marks my 1 year with the group, and what a privilege and opportunity. I've continued to learn so much from everybody here. And, you know, over that last year's conversation surrounding the historic agreement that was previously mentioned, have continued to gain traction. And here we are. We've challenged our group in West Palm to evaluate our role that we play in this process. And twofold, on the planning and permitting side of the shop, you know, how we're making sure we have access and the information we need to keep things lean. Again, on that planning and permitting aspect of the functions we perform. And then on the back end, on the construction operational monitoring and compliance side, making sure we're reducing redundancy in certain situations, leaning on that reasonable scientific judgment, making informed decisions coming out of quite literally the conversations over the past 2 days and those workshops that were conducted, and really taking a look at our role in this process and keeping things moving. And we're positioning the state to take on some pretty critical projects in an expeditious fashion. So we've seen great coordination with our partners at the federal and state level. And, you know, I'll take a minute to just recognize and commend everybody who pulled together over those last 2 days worth of workshops and the robust discussions that were had. You know, and I think the first day, the topic of this Reynolds point, harmony in that data collection, how we're collecting, how we're sharing, how we're communicating that data is extremely important. I think the same goes for the regulatory landscape. So harmony on both sides is extremely important. Again, we charged our group in West Palm to take a look at that, and I think we're going to have some great progress and see some projects come online and see some good things in the future. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Melody Naja, and I am representing the National Park Service on the working group, and I think on the science coordination group. So I am the adjunct for Pedro Ramos. So my updates today, first I want to thank your staff, Jed, Bob, Haley, Jose. They did a wonderful job facilitating and organizing this workshop. I'm 100% sure that many of my staff and myself will look at the recording again. Yesterday was phenomenal. The discussion about Regents through having the district represented, having Chris McVoy there, Judd Harvey, and having their input on how we can maintain the biodiversity on the landscape while restoring the Regents too. That was really a great discussion. So thank you for organizing this. Then I want to congratulate the state of Florida and the Army Corps of Engineers for the MOU and MOA. This is fantastic news, accelerating all these projects and making sure that they are implemented by 2029. I don't know how you will do it, but that's great news. This is, I was really energized, right? It was a boost of positivity for everyone else. And it's also reprioritized us at the National Park Service, right? Now we need to maintain our efforts, the cure plans that we need to implement in the National Park Service to raise the concessions, to be able to raise the water levels in 29 Canal. This is now a priority for us. So in 2026, the National Park Service are working around the clock, basically, to raise the stages on these properties to be able to meet the deadline in 2027. So this is congratulations again. From a science perspective, the National Park, Everglades National Park finished the alligator helicopter survey. Every year we do a massive survey of alligators across Everglades National Park to determine their nesting success and the distribution of the nesting. And we are currently QCing the data, and I will share the results with you all. In prior years, what we have been observing that the alligators are now nesting across the Everglades National Park. Before that, they were really like very concentrated in the middle of the slough. Now what we see is that distribution is really across Everglades National Park. So this is beautiful, like again, successful success, right? Restoration success. But I will update you to see if we need to check if this trend is continuing. Other than that, I'm looking forward for the discussion. Thank you.
Paul Lane for Palm Beach County. Just very excited to hear some more of the details about the accelerated schedule and looking forward to getting further information.
Hi, good morning. Sandra Armstrong, interim for the science coordination group for the district. And Jen and Gina have already kind of told you all of the great things that we've been doing, so no additional announcements, but I do want to recognize the staff for the workshops the past 2 days and all the effort that they put into that to make that a successful event. So thank you to the district staff for participating in that workshop. And I also wanted to acknowledge the presentation later this morning by Phyllis Clement. She'll be providing you an example of how we use the Recover program to look at things outside of the normal range of Everglades restoration, and we're going to be talking about flood protection and water supply. So a little bit different use of the Recover program, and she'll demonstrate how important the Recover program is to the larger picture. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to hear what everyone's doing. Let's not forget about our members online, though. And I'd like to just start with the Science Coordination Group members. I have Marcel Bozes. Marcel?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Marcel.
Director for the Miccosukee Tribes Fish and Wildlife Department and member of the SCG.
Thank you, Marcel. Yesenia?
Good morning, everybody. Yesenia Scribano, FDAC's Office of Ag Water Policy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good morning. Moving over to our working group members that are online. Deb Jerome, Palm Beach County.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's great to see everyone. And I can see you. It's not that dark. It does not look like Halloween. So yeah, Paul Linton is at the table with us today. I have unfortunately got a foot injury that I have a cast on my leg right now that you can't see. So that is why I'm not there in person, and I apologize for that. Palm Beach County is continuing to look for big opportunities in our local watersheds to restore the Loxahatchee River and the Lake Worth Lagoon and sort of plug into some of the key components of SERP in doing so. And so we continue to very much support Everglades restoration. We're looking forward to our commissioners, one of our commissioners, our Vice Mayor, Sarah Baxter, participating in a Everglades the County Coalition fly-in on October 23rd to DC to continue to highlight and bring attention to the importance of Everglades restoration. So thank you. It's good to see you all.
Thank you. It's good to see you. Amy Castaneda? All right, we'll come back to Amy. John Bale?
Good morning. Saying bummed not to be there with you guys this morning. I'm with Martin County Environmental Resources Division, and I do want to give just a brief update on some exciting developments in our land acquisition program and how that relates to the Everglades effort. As most of you probably know, if you've been listening to me at all, we last year passed a local option sales tax in Martin County to commit a 0.5 cent for 10 years to conservation land acquisition. And one of the key areas of focus for that program will be acquisition of natural land component of Indian River Lagoon South SERP project. And so the county's got kind of a long history and a proud tradition of not just coming with a handout, but coming with our own skin in the game. And so that tradition continues, and the staff have been working really hard to put together an environmental lands oversight committee and a manual to guide the administration of the program. And we've already had several meetings and have approved 18 properties over 10,000 acres. And we are doing due diligence on those now, working to get agreements with landowners. And an exciting upcoming event next Tuesday at Governor and Cabinet. On the agenda, they will be taking up what we call the Barbie Ranch. It's a 2,000 acre conservation easement that the county and Florida Forever are funding, that is identified in the original project implementation report for Indian River Lagoon South natural lands component. So this will actually at some point be eligible for the federal cost share. It's part of Everglades Restoration, and it's a local government working with DEP and Florida Forever. It's something we've been working on for years, and the sales tax is going to help us fund it. It's really exciting. There's going to be much more of that to come, and the Water Management District's been heavily engaged with us on helping to make sure that we're walking down the same path, and that there's some exciting partnerships developing for that. That's all. Looking forward to the discussions.
Thank you, John. Adam Ray.
Good morning, everyone. NOAA National Marine Fisheries Service Southeast Regional Office. No specific updates this morning, but do look forward to today's presentations and updates.
Checking back for Amy Castaneda. Roland Ottolini.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in Zoom. That's really appreciated because affords us some flexibility in attending other things that we've got going on locally here. So I appreciate that format. I'd much rather be there though. However, Lee County Board of Commissioners approved their budget for this following fiscal year, and actually, contrary to local media as well as citizens, our land acquisition program is still intact. There were some concerns that we rolled back some of the funding. Like many other agencies, we have to, look at some cost-saving measures, but we're still sitting on around $20 million for land acquisitions this coming year, focusing a good bit into the crew lands in the southeast portion of Lee County. Since '96, in our inception, we've purchased over 170 properties, totaling around 32,000 acres at $407 million of purchase, and we've developed 52 preserves. Unlike what John mentioned, where there's actually a focused attention to certain properties, ours is a kind of a volunteer willing seller program. We get applications in our communities, review them, and we're starting to get not the most desirable ones. A lot of small properties coming in, or perhaps even want to be developers, are finding the residential and commercial construction is rolling back a little bit, and so they're offering up very disturbed properties, perhaps mango groves and such that would cost a lot of money to restore. So unless they're really strategic in location, we're forced to create a kind of a tiered approach and trying to acquire those that are most critical that we need on our environmental landscape. Last time I talked about our drought in Lee County. Of course, with the rainy season, we're not seeing the well replacements that we had, but this time last year, though, some of our major aquifers that we pull domestic self-supply from are lower, some cases 3.5 feet lower than this time last year. And on top of that, we have, in some cases, 8.5 inches of rainfall deficit. So we've got a little bit of rainfall to make up. I don't want it all happen at one time, like nobody else here does, but a nice constant drizzle over the next a few weeks might help us bring those aquifer levels back up. following Lake Okeechobee operations, supportive of what the Corps and district are doing, recovery envelope that seems to be following right on course. Obviously, we're not getting our optimum flows in S79, but note that that's 100% from basin runoff. Other than that, I'm looking forward to today's presentations and perhaps even interested in any future plans for additional storage in the northern estuaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy? I don't know if you'd like to say some opening words for the workaround.
Yeah, we have the Seminole Tribe has been working closely with the South Florida Water Management District on the modeling effort for Western Everglades Restoration Project, particularly with the culverts coming into the native area and helping them to really show the full extent of what's happening out there in the Western Basin. So I think that's going to be a real help in terms of being able to really finalize how that water is going to come into the native area under the work. So we're optimistic that we're going to have a good modeling effort with the district and move forward with work, continue to move forward with work. I think that's about it for the update that I have right now, but that's a real positive move forward with work.
Excellent, thank you. And I'll just do a last check for any members online. We do have a running list of who's online from the SCG and the working group, but if I've missed any members, just speak up and we'll hear you in the room. The room is well mic'd. For that, we do have a first order of business here, and that is our approval of meeting minutes for the May 2025 meeting. That is being considered. I'll accept the motion for that if any members have a motion. We have one motion to move. And a second, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Online? For the voting online, if anyone has a discussion or an opposite opinion, let's hear that. We got A's from some folks. All right. Meeting minutes passed. Adam, your executive director's report, please.
Thanks. Really briefly about the meetings the last couple of days. It wouldn't be possible without everybody at the table support here. It wouldn't have been that well attended and that meaningful. Now the pressure's on our office to turn around the results. So we can keep doing more of these types of engagements in the face-to-face and getting folks together and talking about these important factors as we're moving these restoration items closer to Blue Shanty and possibly other features into Everglades National Park. They're very informative, ecologically based discussions that are hopefully going to support the overall construction and how we move forward. There's probably going to be a lot of topics that come out to the SCG to consider. I don't believe it was actually setting targets, but just a discussion of the items here and what the direction is going to come back to this group. And, when Eric Stavinow was part of the group before, he was the one that brought up having these breakout sessions during the last SCG working group meeting. And so we hope to continue those. And so the pressure's on us to turn around that consensus white paper and then bring it back to this group for further consideration. Channelization and a lot of different topics. So really great team effort and appreciative to NOAA for providing that support. So sorry I was not able to be there yesterday. So going on the update, it's pretty brief. Next slide. We hit the ground running with the I guess I got the clicker. All right, that's what you put this here for. Yeah. Okay, all right, clicker. Right, just I'm in control. Somebody's giving me both the mic and the clicker. I don't know what to do. So the transparency letter, the task force letter from Congressman Diaz-Balart requesting more transparency on restoration in general, and so bringing that back up, we hit the ground running, and we just one thing or another. And so really I'm just soliciting here today for any other ideas to come forward either today or in the following days of how to potentially evaluate various options. There were some things that were thrown around, distractions having no excuse. I did not drive that bus hard enough or, continue to bring it back up and champion the effort. And that's what I'm trying to do here is to respond to the congressman's, request. And so in reminding us all about the goals of the effort was to maintain the momentum, maintain a high level of funding, and communicate this progress in an effective way to the members and the public as well. Without their support, we're it would be a different position. So just putting it out there and see what comes back. The proposed schedule, a lot of thunder. My thunder, the next couple of slides has been taken out, and it's great that everybody's making sure we're informed about these sessions. I think I actually listened one date here. Oh, yeah, so I am, but October 7th, Erin covered that. Gina covered the IDS workshop. All this will be on the website. And while I'm talking about the website, if you're trying to access the workshops, they're down in the public engagement section of the website, which is where all that information is being posted. I'm not sure, the presentations hopefully will be posted as many as we can. I don't know if they're there yet. Up to the meetings, they were not, but hopefully they'll be there in the next couple of days. We are still targeting December 9th for the South Florida Ecosystem Restoration Task Force. And as Jennifer had mentioned, we're struggling with that a little bit. We're waiting on some activities on both federal and state side. But there's nothing to be, don't read into anything with that. Don't fill in the blanks. There's nothing more to fill in there on that topic. And don't let the mind wander. It's just, it's taking some time to get some appointments up there done. And then the IDS, the formal IDS, the date that I'm missing on here is the date that I've been given is December 12th. And I've asked to maybe speed that up to the 9th if we can by a couple of days possible. There is a governing board meeting on the 11th, and the 12th of December is the 25th anniversary of the signing of CERB. So lots happening in that 1 week, and we'll keep everybody as informed as possible. Now, as far as what Jennifer had also mentioned, this is what we're having here is some of the challenges. The charter does not contemplate both the chair and vice chair on the SCG to be vacant, and we're going to be working through that and talking and trying to get this moving. And so some of these positions on the state side were never really here, right? And so those are trying to be filled right now as well, actively engaged. That's all. Thanks again to Palm Beach County for having us here at this space and for you all being here and online. We have a lot of work to do, and the right people are here. So thanks, James.
Thank you, Adam, for the update. Appreciate that.
Integrated financial plan information. Some have gotten stuff to me, right? And we're still tracking to keep that moving forward. So if I've heard from, I'm not going to say which ones are not. So, but if you haven't gotten it to me, then we still got time, plenty of time. But just don't forget about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. I just want to appreciate the dates you lay out and the way they're laid out on the website to track along with the different meetings. Now I'd like to welcome the Army Corps of Engineers for our program projects update. Gina Ruff. Gina.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Gina Ruff with the Corps of Engineers. I'm going to give you the overview of our project management update. I'm not a project manager, I'm filling in. So I have some notes that I will be reading from just as we move through here. So I'm happy to take any questions that I can, and I do have a lifeline in the audience just in case I need her. Okay, so good morning. Welcome to the September 25th South Florida Ecosystem Restoration Program update. Its update is being provided for the working group and science coordination group, as well as members of the public, to share the status of ongoing restoration work. The goal today is to highlight recent accomplishments, explain ongoing efforts, and outline upcoming steps across the South Florida ecosystem restoration. Okay. Jose. There we go. Okay, great. So I'm going to start off with program level activities. These are efforts that provide coordination and guidance across the entire restoration program. We will get to the report to Congress. This is a 5-year update summarizing progress and challenges. And I'd like to thank everybody who did provide input to that document to help make it successful. Talk a little bit about the integrated delivery schedule. This again is our long-term roadmap for project sequencing and investments. I'll give you a little bit of an overview of water management operations, how we manage water across the system for people, the environment, and flood protection. And then talk a little bit about projects that are in the design and construction phase, where we are nearing delivery and completion of those projects. Okay, so just real briefly, the report to Congress and the integrated delivery schedule. So this 5-year report to Congress is a requirement under WRDA 2000, Section 601. It's prepared jointly by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of the Interior, as required, and it provides a comprehensive update on implementation progress under the Comprehensive Restoration Plan. It is currently under internal review and coordination, and the final submission to Congress is planned for early 2026. So just to give you an overview of what's included and where we are at this point, right now in October of 25, we are getting feedback from our chain of command, and we'll be ready for final publication by the date on the slide there, January of 2026. So the integrated delivery schedule, I think I mentioned earlier, we have the first listening session October 7th. October 14th, we will have another listening session, and then the draft release will be November 19th. This will be held at South Florida Water Management District in West Palm Beach, with the final release December 12th, acknowledging DOI's request for December 9th. So I will take that back to the team. All right, so I'm going to give a brief overview now of operations. Okay, so here we are as of a few days ago now. Water levels in Lake Okeechobee and seasonal rainfall patterns continue to shape how water is moved through the system. So you can see we are in that ecological recovery envelope, and we are in the process of preparing an after action report. We anticipate that we will have several. The first one will talk about the hydrologic conditions, but we have to wait until we have a response of some of our indicators to include some of the submerged and emergent vegetation within Lake Okeechobee, and then following the fisheries. So more information, but we will continue to provide updates to the public. All right, so Tim mentioned earlier the Combined Operations Plan multi-year deviation. We are working towards implementing this multi-year deviation to the COP Water Control Plan. We have an alternative one is the one that's chosen, and this provides additional flexibility while we are waiting till we have full development of the Central Everglades Planning Project Increment 1 operations. So we are continuing to engage with our partners. We are refining the environmental assessment. We are currently waiting on our final biological opinion. And we will then again have a final for you later in December. I know there have been some requests for additional alterations to the combined operations plan, and the team is highly focused on getting this multi-year deviation in place to allow for that additional flexibility. Okay, so increment one. Increment one is moving forward. Increment one, to set the stage and set expectations, we are utilizing the existing water budget. So we will have any additional flows that LOSUM provides in addition to what's already in the system. And so in the near term here, we are moving to modeling. We've been working using an iModel to test some potential concepts to build into alternatives. And now we are putting those together and going to send alternatives to the regional simulation model GladesLexa. We will have a review of those modeling results and identify a tentatively selected plan. And then in January, we will optimize that model, see what we could get from whatever that tentatively selected plan is. So we have some milestones listed on the slide here. We do anticipate that we will have a draft environmental impact statement and project operations manual in the summer of 2026. We will have a final biological opinion in winter of 2026, and then the record of decision in 2027. The idea is to have the Central Everglades Planning Project Increment 1 Ops Plan complete at the same time construction is complete on Tamiami Trail next steps so that we can leverage that infrastructure. Okay, moving on to A2, stormwater treatment area, the interim operational plan. We have draft plans and those will be shared for public review in late 2025. And if those operations are improved, it would, the interim operations could begin in 2026, allowing more clean water to be sent south. So why this one is important, this improves water quality within it improves water quality so that we can ensure that we are promoting healthy landscapes downstream, and it also ensures water supply reliability through that savings. So we thank all of our partners who have been working in conjunction with us on these. Okay, so I'm going to move into design and construction. So starting with the Indian River Lagoon South project, talking about the C23, C24 stormwater treatment areas. This is over 80% complete and moving toward connection with the other reservoirs in the system. Once it's operational, it will improve water quality in the St. Lucie River and in the Indian River Lagoon. The next one is the Everglades Agricultural Area Reservoir. This is part of SEP. So major features like canals, seepage controls, and cutoff walls are under construction. This is the largest single project in the restoration program, and it is critical for storing and sending water south. Once this is complete, we will be able to have another operations plan that takes advantage of this clean stored water that we could send south. So remember, SEP increment 1 is one increment with existing water and LOSUM flows. And the next increment, we will be able to include water that is stored in the EAA reservoir. So moving on to SEP South, we have ongoing constructions of culverts and canals, and this is to improve the flow capacity to the Everglades. So it's about sending that water south and distributing it through the historical flow paths. Moving on to, hold on, we're still in the EAA, but I don't have notes for this one. So here's some pictures, and we're moving along. Okay. Okay, there's SEP South showing you some wonderful pictures of the ongoing construction of those structures, the 631, 632, and 33. this will provide that connection and help to try to decompartmentalize part of the system, improve the flow. Okay, so moving on to Biscayne Bay coastal wetlands. So the pump stations and the flowway connections are nearing completion. These will help restore more natural freshwater flows into Biscayne Bay and improve the health of the nearshore habitats. So this project we are really moving forward with. We are seeing benefits already, and we're super excited about all of these projects, but this one will help with a precursor to what BBC is trying to build. So, Picayune Strand. Picayune Strand, the canal plugging and the levee construction continue. The project is expected to wrap up in 2025. Huge success. This restores the natural sheet flow across thousands of acres of former land that was slated for development. So Picayune is a huge success story, and super excited to get to see that in person in the near future. And with that, that is the end of my brief. I can try to take some questions.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you very much. Let's look around the room. We'll let the folks know online if they have any questions. Go ahead and raise your hand, and let's just go around the room and see if we have any specific questions here.
I have some questions.
Go right ahead, Tom.
Okay, so I have questions on slide 9 and slide 10, and basically focusing on cut deviation and step 1.0. You don't need the slides as well. Okay, so step 1.0, you mentioned the timeline for the record of decision being 2027. To match or to meet the timeline for Tamari train next step. Tamari train next step, the latest that we heard is the time construction is December 2026. So do you have any specific about 2027? Are we talking beginning, mid, or late 2027? Because that's important for the National Park Service. We need to try to meet this timeline, your timeline to finish the cure plan implementation. You have like
Sure. So I'm going to ask Ken to verify, but I believe it's March of 2027.
It's spring. It's spring of 2027 is what I understand.
Okay, so we're still like early 2027.
I would say yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for this. Then my second question is cut deviation. You had on your slide, why this matters, right?
Right, I didn't hear what you just said.
So why this matters on
why is that?
Yes, so it's like provides flexibility to manage high water levels in 3A, but there is something protects Everglades National Park inflow while addressing the Miccosukee tribe requests. Can you please just expand on this, like what you mean by protecting the inflows? Because my understanding it was basically for 3A to reduce the high water levels in 3A. So.
Right, so it's a conditions-based approach, right? So when there are conditions that may be too high within 7-3A, there's an opportunity to deliver more water to Everglades National Park. And, we consistently hear Everglades National Park needs more water, we need to deliver it to Florida Bay. So it's a win-win where we're reducing stages in 3A for the benefit of the habitat there, while at the same time providing the water that the park needs and delivering that down to Florida. Sure.
Just wanted to say thank you for the presentation and kudos to the Corps for all the work they're doing. Just so people are aware, SubSouth, the work that the Corps is doing down there, big shout out to the Corps and to the district. One of the things that the Corps is doing is they're taking an existing decomp fiscal model structure that previously the department, the way we had earned it, would have required the Corps to demolish it, return it back to natural, then rebuild the structure. But because of the work, the coordination between the teams, we were able to skip those steps and actually kind of reuse the existing structure. So it's a kudos to them for realizing those benefits to the system. So thank you. Great job on progress.
Yes, strongly agree. The decom physical model has shown us so much. It has filled in so many uncertainties, and all of that great science that was produced by that through the SERP adaptive management framework is being incorporated into the design to make those improvements. And it's also a huge cost savings. Why put something in that's providing benefits only to take it out and demolish it? So, it's recycling, right? It's reusing existing for the benefit. So yes.
Thank you for the presentation, Gina. I just have to mention that it's like exciting to see Gina also presenting on construction projects, right? Usually she only gets to present on the science. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, and Melanie, it was part of what you brought up with the operations, right? I think we really see in Gina's presentation, we're in a place where we're bringing a lot of projects and project components online. And what we're seeing is that we need to do a whole series of interim operations. And every time we're bringing something on, there's new opportunities for us to manage water differently and take advantage of the structures that we have with interim operations. But I'll say that our collective teams are struggling a little bit on how to communicate that to the public and to our stakeholders in a way that isn't overly complicated. Because it is complicated and it's tough, and without getting into, well, here are the dials that we're using and how we're managing each of these structures and going into pages of how structures are going to be operated and canal levels and gate changes and things like that. It's hard to communicate what does interim operations mean in all of these ways, and how are we doing interim operations for SEP and interim operations for a certain project and interim operations or looking to new operations for all kinds of schedules, whether it's 3A, 2A, 3B, Big Cypress, the canals at L29, right? There's all of these, our water managers are looking at all of those things. And so I'm just bringing it up because this is not going to slow down the interim operations plans and the amount of engagement that we're going to need to do with the public and with our stakeholders to communicate that what we're trying to do is leverage the infrastructure that we're building to improve operations in an incremental way is really, really an important part of us delivering restoration and taking advantage of the work that we're doing. And so thanks for sort of setting that stage here. And I didn't want folks to miss that this is some really hard work moving ahead. And we're going to be working on multiple interim operational plans as well as project operating plans simultaneously over really the rest of our careers. I mean, it's not going to slow down because the amount of work we're doing and the projects we're bringing online isn't slowing down. And the only way that we take advantage of the infrastructure that we're building and the science that we're conducting and learning from is to continually adapt, which is not adaptive management adapt, but just the normal English word adapt our operations through the processes that we have. But what I would challenge us to figure out is we've got to figure out how to get a little bit more efficient at going through that process. Because if it takes us 3 years to plan and change an operational plan every time we want to make a change, like, we're not gonna be able to get the benefits that our infrastructure is bringing to the system. And so we're gonna need to get a little uncomfortable, and I'm looking at the service here, right? Because they're a huge partner in how we do this. As well as the tribes, right? And thinking through how do we create appropriate flexibility in our interim operational plans that foresee the infrastructure that we see coming online, do the NEPA analysis that's necessary in order to build in that flexibility in those plans, but put the measures in place that doesn't make everybody feel like we're giving away the keys to the kingdom, right? And really work toward leveraging all of the infrastructure and all of the knowledge that we have to bring those incremental benefits. So thanks for setting the stage for that. I think it's super important.
Absolutely. And if we could leave you with a bottom line, incremental or interim operations equate to incremental benefits. These are opportunities to test what we know, to use science to inform those operations. And then as we have additional infrastructure coming online, we can apply the lessons learned from those interim operations to a full operations plan. So it may make people uncomfortable in the interim, thinking that we are lowering stages in a certain area of the system. We're not. And I'd like everyone to also keep in mind that Everglades restoration, SERP restoration, starts in Lake Okeechobee, the northern estuaries, includes the water conservation areas, then includes Everglades National Park in Florida Bay. I think there's a perception out there that Everglades restoration is about Everglades National Park. Everglades restoration is about the whole system, right? So we want to make sure that as we develop these plans and design how water is going to flow, that we're taking that into account. So thanks, Jen, for emphasizing that, hey, we have a grand plan, but we have to take steps in order to get there. And we are consistently and continually learning and improving from those steps. So
I've got just a quick question. You mentioned AAR for, it wasn't clear, was it for LOSM, for the recovery operations? Can you just explain what that was for?
Sure. So we embarked upon recovery operations this past year. And that is a very specific set of requirements that we had to meet in order to implement recovery operations. We're now going to assess how we did, right? We're going to do an after-action review and an after-action report to assess, what went well, what didn't go well, what were the outcomes. But it's going to have to be a phased report because we don't have all of the data. We are going to leverage information that we're collecting, that the district is collecting, that FWC is collecting in order to say, has this been successful? And, our indicators don't respond overnight, right? Some do, but not all of them. So we anticipate that we will have a series of these reports that we will share with the public, and we will likely have workshop forums in which we gather and deliver that information.
Looking around the room for additional questions, and let's check online for any hands. Adam, can you check them? Gina, I'll just say I appreciate you pointing out that restoration is greater, and it is the entire system over at FWC. We really like to focus on the saltwater ecosystem side of restoration. And within that footprint, we manage and co-manage over 3 million acres of conservation lands. And those are very important and rely on those concepts, not only bring conservation benefits to the restoration program, but also rely on the conservation benefits that are coming from the restoration program. So I appreciate that statement. And to Jen, the concept that things aren't slowing down, I am carrying that message everywhere because it is on the horizon. Everything is moving forward. And for somebody who's been in restoration for a long time and had the privilege to chair this group for a long time, it is a privilege to see things moving along the way they are. Checking online, last call.
Gina, did Joan type in that comment? Thank you for recognizing the full system as part of the EG restoration. Echo James said.
Thank you very much, Nina. All right, next up, we have our Water Management District program and project update. And I'd like to welcome Mindy Parrott to the podium. No, you gotta turn that on.
All right.
Gina tried to silence you. Just kidding.
Okay, I've got a lot to tell you today. I mean, you've heard things are going, and every time I come here and give you all an update, there's so much going on, and now there is even more going on. So let's get to it. Okay, so 2025 is a super, super busy year for us, right? Like we've been moving full steam ahead with Governor DeSantis's executive orders that tell us that we need to achieve even more now for Everglades restoration. And so you see the list of our contracts that our governing board has approved this year. We've got a few more left. And just a couple weeks ago, we celebrated the groundbreaking of S355 West, one of the key structures of the Blue Shanty Flowway down on Canyon Trail. And we're super excited and thank the Army Corps for expediting all of our documents to get that done and get us in a place where we can award that contract. So thanks to our governing board and DEP and our legislature and Governor DeSantis for all of the resources to keep these projects moving. And last year, I just want to give you a recap of like all the things we got going on. Last year, we celebrated the completion of restoration strategies projects. So those projects are now on the ground and we're getting them up and running. And just wanted to share a couple of our success stories from our SFPR report. On the left, you see some graphics. The small green dots are what we're after, right? They're good. Big red dots are bad. So on the right side of water year 24, we're seeing water quality improvements throughout the system, and restoration strategies will continue to help us do that. And we know the restoration is working between the Mother Nature giving us the water to work with, our updated operations, and the projects that we have on the ground. We're seeing reconnectivity in the sloughs, and it is a big change from the early 2000s, and you can see that in the data that we're collecting. And additionally, we've been able to reduce the discharges to the estuaries as well. So, wow. Okay, July 18th, we're now in a new situation here, right? Like we've got this crazy new set of agreements, right? So I know folks are wondering, what does this mean for us? So I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So the MOA was signed by Mr. Forsgren, who's the acting secretary of the Army for Civil Works, and Governor DeSantis. And the MOU was signed by Mr. Forsgren, Drew Bartlett, Secretary Lambert, and I think Colonel Bowman, I'm not sure. Anyway, these two agreements, one sets these lofty goals and the other one tries to focus on how we get there, right? Because the federal government, I know the federal government, there is a lot of process, right? And so the idea here is that we've set a lofty goal of completing EAA reservoir construction, getting Sub South ready to go with the Blue Shanty Flowway. And the MOU lays out a process for that and how the authorities that exist can be leveraged to implement that. And so what that means is the Water Management District will be looking to build some of the projects using federal funding. But federal funding is key, right? We still need appropriations to get that work done. So right now, the district
the Corps, the ASA's office are all talking and how we can make this happen. But we're optimistic. So how would this work? So the Corps is working at if and how construction can be accelerated at the EA. The district will take on more work on the EA site to take some of the load off the Corps so they can focus on the embankment and contracts for the main features of the reservoir. So we've done construction of our remaining piece there that's not underway yet, and that is the reservoir inflow pump station. So that's the main big pump station for the reservoir. We were targeting a September board meeting, but that wasn't quite ready. So I think we can look forward to that in an upcoming governing board meeting, maybe October, Jen, I'm not sure, but okay. So in the meantime, we've taken on the design for the seepage pump station, and I'll show you in the graphic next to that. But that pump station is one of the features that we are hoping to build on behalf of the Corps using federal funding. So here's the EA, SDA, and reservoir. The two circles, S623 and S636, those are the pump stations I just mentioned. And then, of course, we are getting this STA ready to go, waiting on that operations plan that Gina spoke about. And we are still underway with construction of the canal improvements. So here's some of that work that's going on, improving the capacity and size of the two canals. Those pictures are from North New River, and we just recently awarded a similar job for Miami Canal Phase 1, and Phase 2 will follow shortly behind it, maybe in December, maybe early 26. So part of the EAA work requires us to basically change the road to a bridge at US 27. The DOT, my understanding, they have selected their contractor for that work and they're negotiating that. So we will see that work begin maybe by the end of the year, maybe in early 26. So, Blue Sandy Flowway. I mentioned earlier, we had the groundbreaking for S355 West. That one is circled there. That's a key feature of the Blue Sandy Flowway because a part of the work there will allow access to construct the Blue Sandy levee. So while the Corps is constructing those three culverts on the Okay, while they're constructing those culverts and we'll be building the spillway S355 West, we've taken on the design for the remaining features. So that's the Blue Shanty levee, the filling of canals, and all the remaining earthwork other than the pump station S356. So it says late 2026 to begin construction. I think Drew's a bit optimistic there because we need federal funding, and that federal funding would, if it's appropriated, kind of 27. So we're looking at late 2026 calendar year would be early FY 27. Again, federal funding is key, as well as all of the documents and agreements we need in place to get that done. So that wraps up what the MOU is focused on. And right now, the projects we are identified under that work would be the Blue Shanty Flowway and the pump station at the EA. So now moving on to our regularly scheduled update. What's up north? We have three projects that are, okay, we have three projects that are underway with awarded contracts. The L5 Remnant Canal, the S622, and the S620, which is wrapping up shortly. remaining features are all undesigned. And the next one would probably be the L4, which would come be ready in sometime in 27. So moving over to the Kuisahachi, a couple months ago, we had a big celebration. So there's some video from that. It's pretty cool, right? That reservoir is just awesome, right? So I'll talk a little bit longer so you can see the spewing water at the end. But it was a great event, and we all had a chance to see the pumps put into action. So we got a little bit of work going on up there still, and then we'll have a couple years of the fill plan where we very carefully fill the reservoir, make sure everything is working properly, test everything before we can put it into regular operation. So over on IRL, C44 SDA is complete and we're in OCMP. We're building our features out there at the STA. So those hopefully will be completed in early 26. The South Reservoir is under construction with package 1. I'll show you some photos of that. And then we're hoping to award the package 2 in the next couple months. The EDD, the estuary discharge diversion, which will allow water to be diverted instead of flowing to the middle estuary, allow us to send it to the C44 project, where it can be stored and sent through the STA before it is entered back into the system. C25 package 1 is underway. That's the site prep as well as like building a temporary bridge to access the site. Package 2, right now we are dependent on appropriations to award that one. Hopefully those will come in the next couple of fiscal years. So here's the work going on for the EDD. Pump station nearly done over on C23 canal. And the photo on the right is the culvert that is installed at Martin Highway, which is County Road 714. So you see the road is diverted there. That work on the culvert, I believe, is complete. And so they'll begin the process of putting the road back in place, making the connections, and then moving on to complete the project. So for the South Reservoir, one of the first things we have to do is improve the canal that is just south of the proposed reservoir. And so these two photos give you a good look at that work. One on the right, you can see the width of the canal before the excavation, and just above it, you can see what the new section of the canal will look like. And on the left, the photos taken from the opposite direction, so the finished work is on the left bank of the canal. All pretty and solid. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, the reservoir in STA at C25, we have work going on there to clear, cap wells, and get the site ready. So over on Waxahachie, there is a lot of work for the design going on, particularly for flyway 2, the C18 impoundments. Our design team, despite their best efforts, was not able to design the project canal without being in conflict with a few transmission lines. So at a recent governing board meeting, they approved us to work with FPL to work on their design and get a couple of those giant transmission poles out of the way. So unfortunate, but it is a needed thing because it would have cost us just as much or more to try to wiggle the canal around and then still have conflicts during construction of the transmission line. So that we hope that work will get underway sometime next year. Moving on to work. For Region 4, we are building the L28 South dated culverts. You see S229C, the southernmost one on the left. We are in design for loop road conveyances on 11 Mile Road and also for Tamiami Trail. So we've got a lot of moving parts with these, but we do have construction hopes and schedules for 2026 for Loop Road, 11 Mile Road, and then Tamiami Trail will follow. The design that we're working on coordinating with everyone, DOT, Army Corps, the National Preserve, the tribes, for Tamiami Trail will include 2 panther crossings, two bridges that have panther crossings, and 2 bridges, lower level bridges that have wildlife friendly designs. So that is what we're working on for Region 4 at this time. And in Region 1, if you're familiar with work, there's a sequencing plan. And in Region 1, next on the sequencing plan was the North Feeder STA. And part of that involves another panther crossing in Henry County, 9 County Road 835. So we're getting those started, and that's how we'll get Region 1 underway. And as Stacy mentioned, Region 2, we are collecting data and working on the model there that everybody is can't wait to see the results of. So hopefully we'll be able to share that in the ones soon. So here's some more photos of the work as L28 South Collins. And then back up to Lake Okeechobee. LOCAR was approved, authorized in Order 24. And so we are looking at getting out on that site to collect data and that we need to support the design. We will have a rough schedule in this year's IDS, but it will take some time to refine that schedule on this very large. ASR, we, the state of Florida, continue to advance the ASR program. We have additional wells to drill, and we're investigating the conditions at the other sites, as well as designing the demonstration facility for the treatment. We continue to work with ERDIC, and we are anxiously awaiting guidance from the Army Corps on how we will deal with ASR now that the loop study is, I hate to use the word terminated, but like over. So, but ASR is not over. We are still pushing forward with that. So I put Boost King Bay last because it is so close to being done. It's super exciting color. I know we'll have a celebration soon about this, so keep your calendars open. Maybe it'll be in December. S701 is a feature that pulls the water out of the canal and sends it to the concrete line channel and then into the yellow feature, which is the star as well. So it's hard to see looking at the screen I'm looking at, but the concrete line channel is nearly complete to the structure. Structure looks like it's in good shape. And looking from the other end, the flume is nearly done, as well as the spreader swell. So, like I said, we're looking forward to celebrating the completion of the ECW. In fact, it will be the final completion. It's the last piece. And then working to implement the recreation plan at the site so everyone can enjoy it. So with that, I'll take your questions.
Hey, Mindy, is there any rough estimates in terms of the schedule for LOCAR? I mean, just generically?
Jen put up 10 fingers. So it is a big reservoir, right? It's bigger or bigger than C43. Like It's big. So, I think we want to get out there and get the design going. We may be able to start on certain pieces of it, like one of the structures or some of the canal work that needs to be done sooner. But I think we were looking at 3 to 4 years of design just to get to that point. But you'll see in a few months, the rough schedule we'll have for LUCAR and then IDS. It'll just be one line, and then as we're able to refine it, we'll share more.
Thanks, Jim. Roland Arlini online.
Mindy, great presentation. Very impressive amount of work you got going on. Not to add additional work, but curious what the status of identifying additional storage needs within the Caloosahatchee watershed basin. I believe that was done through the Caloosahatchee Watershed Protection Plan. So either maybe you or Jennifer can respond to that. Thank you.
I'll ask Jen to address that.
So at the October board meeting, we're going to be talking about an RFP, a request for proposal that we put out for additional storage projects in the Caloosahatchee. And so I'll have a little bit more information about some projects that we're looking to get approved by the governing board in a couple of weeks. It's not big storage. You know, the Caloosahatchee watershed needs about 400,000 acre feet of storage in that watershed in accordance with our watershed protection plan. And the C43 reservoir gets us about halfway there. We have a few other projects that are providing some storage, and with these new projects that we're looking to get approved, we get another small increment, but we need more storage. And so we'll also be talking about opportunities to do some additional proposals. FDAX is also going to be presenting at our October governing board meeting, and they actually have a project proposal workshop. I'm not sure what the right word is, workshop tomorrow morning that they are presenting information to the public about a grant program to offer opportunities for additional projects. And one of the areas that they could accept projects in is the Caloosahatchee watershed. And so we're looking at ways to incorporate additional storage projects within that watershed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have a question, just a comment. You know, it's good to see the work on the Panther crossings on the southern end of work. And of course, we've all been working together on designing and getting those implemented. So that's really good. Really good to see. Service is really excited. And then also very excited to hear the work that's going forward with the County Road 835 Panther crossing, which is going to be a really, really important and beneficial crossing in that area. We've had a number of panther mortalities, and so really good to hear you talking about that. So thanks.
Great presentation, Mindy, as usual. I am impressed with the amount of work that we're doing. That's always impressive. I want to focus on slide number 4. It's entitled Restoration is Working. Like coming back to Jen, your comment about communication, how we can communicate to the public that it is working, it's effective. And this is great, like visually it's right there comparing the previous period of record to the last 4 years and see the benefits that we are achieving. Now, from the workshop, the last 2 days, scientists were like struggling, like how we can attribute to the benefits, right? Is it rainfall? Is it COP? Is it the Florida Bay Initiative? We don't know. We don't know, but it's working, right? It's like, and you see it here in the slide for the salinity levels in Florida Bay. This year, especially this dry season, like we were expecting a nagilu, and like the staff were communicating with me, like temperature, dissolved oxygen, chlorophyll A levels. It won't happen, and it did not happen. Something like I don't know, but it worked. Something is working with the system. And this is what you see on the slide, the salinity levels. It's great news for the estuaries, northern estuaries with these droughts. That's visually you immediately understand that's, we are shifting. However, right, what I would recommend is like consistent timeline, right? You have the period of records, right? You're shifting from 2011 to 2018, 2002 to 2021, just if you can have consistent period of record comparing the before and after. But that's great. Thank you for this. And then my second comment is about the ASR. So you are doing a like a pilot ASR on C38S demonstration facility 10 MGD. And the Army Corps, they have their own scientific studies coming and to address the uncertainties. But how can you incorporate these uncertainties and the outcome from these scientific studies into the demonstration facility? Is there a feedback? Is this planned or these are parallel track and like?
No. The demonstration facility helps feed the whole science plan, right? So the facility is being designed based on science that's collected already. And it's also in response to regulatory requirements, right? For the quality of water that, that has to be put it in the ground and when we take it out. So it is a very unique and tricky situation. So our teams are working with all available information to get it right. And then we want to see the results of that test facility working will help inform the science plan and vice versa. So it is all kind of an integrated approach. It is a little sticky with the Army Corps because they're not completely, they don't have the assurance that they'd like to see yet, but in order for us to get there, we have to do it. So we're working through that, we continue to work through that with them, but ERDIGA is underway. We are communicating with them and working with them directly. So
you are building this pilot to address the uncertainties and to get more science done in order to inform.
Right. So the pilot facility is the treatment part. So it will help answer many of those uncertainties, which will enhance quality of water.
Great. Thank you.
And we just wanted to say, great job with the presentation. It's always good to see all the pictures and all the updates. I know that's a lot of work that the district and Corps is doing. Both agencies are taking on a lot of work. But I wanted to say thank you to Roland and to Jim for bringing up the other piece to Everglades Restoration, which is the Northern Everglades Estuary Protection Program. I know we're not here to talk about that, serve as our focus, but that is often forgotten. That's another thing, another group of projects that the district is working really hard to get in place. So just kudos to you all for keeping both of those balls up in the air continuously. It's good to see the progress. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ed.
We're going to look around the room. We're going to give a moment, James, we're going to look around the room and give a moment for folks online to raise their hands. Mindy, I had a question. You mentioned the new project team, the E3 team. Can you tell us anything about that this time?
Well, if the Corps would like to talk about it, it's actually their team. So it's a team that the Corps puts together to look at the EA specifically on is it possible to accelerate the construction, which is already under contract, right? So that adds a layer of complexity. And if it is, what resources is that going to take to get that done? And the MOU created a group called the Serve Oversight Group, and they have a meeting next week. And so hopefully the information coming and decisions that come out of that will help us understand what it's going to take to get that done.
Thank you. So a really focused technical team looking at pieces of the EDA. Not seeing any hands online. I'm looking around. Mindy, thank you for the excellent presentation. I'll second what Ed said. It covers a lot of ground, but very detailed. Thank you. We'll move on to our next agenda item here and call up our cover update with Phyllis Carmen.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Quick audio check as my slides are pulled up.
We have not got your slides just yet. Oh, yes, we do. We have your slides up. They're just not on the screen in front of me on my computer. And we have you loud and clear. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I want to thank the OERI staff for helping to zoom me in today. My name is Phyllis Klarman. I'm with the South Florida Water Management District, and I am the district program manager for Recover. Real quickly, I wanted to acknowledge my counterpart with the Army Corps, Gina Ralph, who's in the room with you and is wearing many, many hats. Also, thank you to Cassandra Armstrong, who acknowledged Recover in this presentation and the opening comments this morning. And just a few other folks I wanted to just quickly acknowledge. I'm giving an update on our water supply and flood protection team and some performance measure updates that the team has been working on. Alicia McGlure, Pete Kwiatkowski, Rebecca Elliott, Sarah Bellman, Paul Linton. There's a number of people who helped with these performance measure updates. I didn't name everybody for sure, but just wanted to acknowledge everybody who contributed. So please, next slide. All right, so just in case there's anybody in the room who is not familiar with Recover, Recover is the scientific and technical team that supports science for the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan. So we ensure SERP implementation is guided by the best available science. And we have 3 major missions. You'll hear me use a few of these terms throughout the presentation today. So just wanted to make sure I provide these definitions. One of our missions is regarding assessment. So assessment in Recover lingo is regarding measuring performance of projects through research and monitoring. So this is stuff that we're doing to observe responses to SERP implementation on the ground in real life. And then we have evaluation. Evaluation in our Recover speak regards computational modeling and forecasting or simulating project performance to the best of our ability with our regional simulation models and a number of ecological modeling tools. And finally, planning. So Recover is integrated with the project management teams. And of course, we provide recommendations and feedback on operating the system. Next, please. So I just wanted to give a refresher. Our monitoring, our ecological monitoring for SERP is system-wide. Jose, if you could hit next for me. So I just wanted to point out that we literally have system-wide monitoring across numerous modules. So we have our Lake Okeechobee, Northern Estuaries, Greater Everglades, Southwest Florida, and the Southern Coastal Systems modules. And you could see the plethora of ecological monitoring that's happening across the system. System-wide, however, also refers to the fact that system-wide, we want to see how the ecosystem writ large is operating and performing through the full complement of SERP projects that are going to be implemented over time. So system-wide refers to the geographic extent as well as the functional ability of the system to respond to SERP. Next slide, please. And so real quickly, I wanted to just give a highlight of our interim goals and targets. So our interim goals refer to our ecosystem restoration components. So interim goals refers to the stepwise performance of our ecological indicators as SERP projects are becoming operational. And so a number of the ecological indicators you saw on the previous slide, we are able to simulate how we expect those organisms or habitats to respond with SERP implementation over time. But we also have interim targets. And this is going to be the highlight of my presentation today. Interim targets refer to the other water-related needs of the region of South Florida. And this includes water supply and flood protection. Our 2003 SERP programmatic regulations tasks Recover with not just looking at the ecosystem, but also these other water-related needs, water supply and flood protection. And so the performance measures I'm going to highlight today involve these interim targets. Next slide, please. So really quick, I'm talking about performance measures. What are they? These are planning tools, and we use these to determine the degree to which proposed alternative plans, and this is for either projects or for operations as well, are likely to meet our restoration objectives. And again, this is the evaluation side of Recover, where we're using computational models to estimate how we expect the system to respond. And then the performance measures are also used to determine if implemented plans have met restoration objectives. And this is where we tie in how we are using our monitoring data and research to assess how the system is performing. Next, please. All right, our performance measures all include a shared set of information here. So an indicator, this can be an ecological indicator or a hydrologic indicator that is representative of some fundamental process in the system. And the indicator could also be something related to the human environment. So in our case, something related to water supply or flood protection. There's a metric. So this is the thing that we're either measuring in the system or we are simulating through our computational models. And then we have a target, AKA our desired restoration condition. So either with SERP implementation or with SERP implementation plus a number of other things, there is the desired restoration condition or target of what we want to see occur in the system. And so the first of the two performance measures that I wanted to highlight here is the MFL prevention strategy to reduce saltwater intrusion of the Biscayne aquifer. So the purpose of this performance measure is to provide a tool to evaluate and assess performance of SERP to protect the Biscayne aquifer from saltwater intrusion. You can see on the right-hand side of this map the extent of the Biscayne aquifer in green. And along the right-hand side of the Florida coast, you can see a number of coastal water control structures along canals where we have specific targets for canal stage, so how deep the water is just upstream of those coastal structures. So the metric in this performance measure is canal stage at those salinity control structures. Next. And our target is to meet these minimum operational levels or MOLs, which translate to the headwater or upstream canal stages for these coastal canals or these salinity control structures for more than half the year, more than 180 days per year. And for this particular performance measure, those minimum operation levels are based on the minimum flows and levels prevention strategy. I wanted to just highlight that because our next performance measure is also looking at coastal canal stage levels, but is not based on the MFL. And the performance measure is evaluating and assessing whether those canal stages are above or below this target and target canal stage and the duration. And being below the target is an indicator of risk for saltwater intrusion. This is a vast what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. Oversimplification of the process, but if the canal levels are above target, it allows for sufficient recharge of the groundwater, and the groundwater pushes back against that saltwater interface that's coming in from the coast. Next. So this performance measure includes the tools for evaluating this performance measure. And so here on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see just a couple examples of the model outputs that we receive from the Interagency Modeling Center when we are looking to compare SERP project or operational plan alternatives. Just an example of canal stages for a given water control structure. And then on the bottom, a bar graph showing the percentage of time that the criteria or the target for each of these control structures are met over time. Next. Finally, the performance measure provides guidance for assessing whether the real world expectations are met for this particular indicator. And so on the screen, I just have a couple of screenshots from our 2024 system status report. We do have a report on these performance measures in our recent SSR. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, it's available on the Army Corps website. Next, please. Okay, our second performance measure is reducing saltwater intrusion of the Biscayne Aquifer in South Miami-Dade County. Sounds very similar to what I had just described, but I will go over the differences. On the right-hand side here, you can see on the map in South Miami-Dade County, those water control structures that have the little black icon, those are separate from the MFL-based structures in the previous PM. And so it has the same metric. We're looking at canal stage at these water control or salinity control structures. And the target, rather than being based on an MFL, is based on historical operating levels. And the minimum headwater canal stages, again, have the duration target of greater than half the year or greater than 180 days above a specific water level, summarized in the table on the bottom right-hand side. And similarly, we have developed criteria for evaluating and for assessing the performance at these structures. Next, please. All right, so a summary of the updates to these performance measures. The original versions of these two performance measures were drafted in 2005. So this is the first time Recover is updating the official documentation sheets for these two PMs in 20 years. A lot of the technical background that went into the modeling, including updating the modeling from the former South Florida water management model or the 2x2 model to the current regional simulation model was actually conducted a number of years ago as part of the LOSIM planning process. And so this performance measure, again, is taking those updates that were done a couple of years ago and bringing them up to date and applying it in the SERP context. Next, please. So I mentioned that the performance measures include how we will be assessing actual performance for this indicator. And again, I bring up these screenshots from our 2024 system status report. The previous versions of the performance measure did not include a protocol for how to assess this indicator. And so we have added that to the new PMs. Next. Between both performance measures, we have aligned the evaluation metrics so that they generate the same model outputs. The earlier versions of the performance measures looked at the same metrics as I described in previous slides, but the way that they were reported, the modeling was reported from the IMC looked a little bit different, and so we wanted to make sure that those were aligned and comparable. Next, please. Finally, we adapted all of this information that I've summarized into a new template that Recover has developed for all performance measures that we will be updating and creating moving forward. And on the screen is just a couple snapshots of a performance measure documentation report that includes this new template. And if anybody's interested in seeing what that looks like, please let us know and we are happy to share a copy. Next. So last but not least, I just wanted to highlight that the performance measures updates did not include updates to the targets themselves. And the reason why that is again, those targets were based on an MFL prevention strategy, as well as some former documentation from 2000 on how historically the canals were operated. So this is something that will have to be looked at again when the MFL is updated. But we wanted to ensure as part of Recover that we were updating these PMs to include the newest modeling and the newest guidance on assessing and evaluating the metrics. Next slide, please. All right, recommendations and future work. So in our interim goals and interim targets report in 2020, there were a number of future SERP project scenarios that were run through our RSM modeling. And as of that report in 2020, so it's 5 years old now, there was minimal change expected from SERP implementation for both of these interim targets by 2032. That may change. We know that a new IDS is coming out, a new integrated delivery schedule is coming out very soon, and a new interim goals, interim targets effort is being kicked off by Recover. We are already scoping that out with the Interagency Modeling Center and between the Recover teams at the Army Corps and the Water Management District. So more to come on that in the next couple of years. Next, please. I just wanted to make note that in 2024, some updated mapping conducted by the U.S. Geological Survey has documented inland migration of the saltwater interface. So they are documenting instances of saltwater intrusion into the aquifer. So for this particular metric or for these performance measures, sea level rise remains a concern. And for some of the structures that were highlighted in both of these PMs, the canal stages are often operated below those targets I mentioned. And there's a number of reasons for that, including prevention of flooding of agricultural areas. But we just wanted to highlight that this will continue to be an uncertainty in terms of how this metric will perform in the future. Next, please. And so as I mentioned, Recover didn't update the targets, but when the MFL is updated for the MFL-based performance measure, Recover recommended that the stage targets be reviewed for potential revision. Next. And finally, something that could help improve these performance measures in the future includes work that the South Florida Water Management is doing to develop a regional density-dependent groundwater model, otherwise known as the East Coast Surficial Model. And this could help improve our performance measure because it will be able to look at potential saltwater intrusion with things like SERP implementation or operational changes. Next. All right, this is my last slide. I just wanted to give you all a heads up that these two performance measures are still in draft form. The team is making some final edits following a series of reviews that were conducted by our water supply and flood protection team, as well as a peer review of agency staff who are familiar with these metrics, and then finally the Recover Executive Committee. And so we anticipate that these performance measures will be available for review in October of 2025, and they will be available for review by the public and our partner agencies for 30 days. So keep an eye out on your email for that announcement. Next. Okay, the water supply and flood protection team is also working on a couple of other performance measures, including the frequency, severity, and duration of water restrictions for both the Lake Okeechobee service area and the Lower East Coast service area. Next. And then we will be starting the scoping of technical updates for two other performance measures, including our water supply or water volume interim target, which doesn't have an official performance measure at this time, but we would like to create one. And then finally, flood protection for high water levels in the South Miami-Dade agricultural area. And so the next slide, if you could just hit next one more time. I wanted to plug that we are calling for team members. So we've been doing a lot of water supply focused work recently, but in this coming year, we will be scoping some flood protection performance measure updates. And so if anybody from your agencies has experience or background in flood protection, we will be needing your help. So if you would be willing to put some of your staff up to the task, you can contact myself or Gina Ralph. Below is our emails. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Phyllis, thank you very much for that presentation. Very well done. Let's look around the room for questions here. And I'll ask folks online to raise their hand if they have any questions. And I'll give a shout out to a past team member, Rebecca Elliott, that has put a lot of work in this venue. And she will appreciate what you're carrying forward at this presentation today. If she's out there watching or pays attention to this in the future.
Yeah, we already miss Rebecca a lot.
All right, thank you very much, Phyllis. Not seeing any hands online, and we're quiet now.
Thank you.
Excellent job. I'd like to ask Ed gives us an update on the Florida Coral Reef Coordination Team.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. Adam said I could take the full time to 12:20, so we're going to do a deep dive on all the species of coral and their relationship with all the vertebrates and vertebrates associated with the coral reef of Florida. So, just kidding. My name is Ed Smith. I'm the director for the Office of Water Policy and Ecosystems Restoration with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And I'm also the recently minted chair of the Florida Coral Reef Coordination Team. Before I begin, I want to give a quick thank you to Wes Brooks. He reached out to me when he was leaving and asked if I was willing to take on this challenge, and I was more than happy to do so. It's kind of an exciting thing. He and I worked together behind the scenes to put this in place, so that's really great. And I want to thank all the working group members for their support in making me the chair, so thank you for that. So quick updates. There were 5 meetings scheduled for this calendar year. We've had 3 of those. The first in January was just kind of an organizational meeting that we had. There was an April meeting. That was West's last meeting. And then in June 27th, that was my first meeting. And I was able to lead the team on that one. We've got, as said previously, we've got an October 7th in-person meeting in Marathon and field visit associated with that. And then our final meeting for the year, December 12th, which we may want to reconsider that date based off of what we've heard today. So for the June meeting, it was a really good meeting. We had 2 great speakers. We had the first, Angela Delaney from Broward County. She gave us a kind of a high-level overview of Broward County coral reefs, what's going on, what they're doing. Talked a good bit about local stressors, focusing on things such as urban runoff, coastal development, and wastewater discharges that are impacting the reefs. Then she went into a good discussion about all the different county programs and initiatives they've got in place to address some of that, looking at how can they improve the health of those reefs in Broward County, highlighting things such as all of their water quality monitoring and environmental or reef monitoring that they've got going on in partnership with many groups. Some of the mooring project that they've got in place, the buoy mooring to protect reefs from anchorage damage. And then one of the things that she highlighted that I really appreciated was they have a student grant program that focuses on identifying community-led projects for reef restoration, which I thought was a very interesting and unique way to get the community engaged in coral reefs. Our next presenter was Laura Brandt with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She came in to give us an update or a kind of a 101 on what are ecological indicators and give us the, kind of behind the scenes of what it takes to identify those ecological indicators, how they can be used. She gave some good examples of where they are being used. For examples, in Waxahachie Wildlife Refuge, she mentioned how they use wildlife, particularly the wading birds, to help them identify better ways to manage water levels within the refuge. So it's looking at those things, and that's something the coral reef coordination team is looking into. She also kind of gave us some words of caution, lessons learned, and that was very helpful for the team. So when we do decide to go down that path, I think it's going to be very helpful for us to avoid some of the mishaps that have happened in other cases. And how do we make sure we focus our efforts to get to the right indicator species. Then we had some really good discussion on what we call our strategies for coordinated actions. The team has adopted 6 to address. At this meeting, we were able to finalize 2 of them. That would be actions 1 and 2, coordinating actions 1 and 2. Action 1 is related to water quality inventory, and we were able to finalize that. And action 2 is related to biological and ecological monitoring inventory. So we're finalizing those. And then finally, we had a great discussion led by Samantha Cook on essentially action 3, which is how do we prioritize that monitoring to make sure that we're making the connection to serve projects in coral reefs. So that was great discussion there from the team. These are the strategies for coordinated actions, SCAs. And you can see we had 6 that were developed previously by Wes and his team, led by Wes. Of those, we have finalized 3. We've done SCA 1, SCA 2, and SCA 4. And then at this, we've got 3 more to do, and hopefully we'll make some significant progress at the next meeting. Which brings us to our next meeting. Just want to say that these meetings are open to the public and to other members of the working group, science coordination group. So I got interested in this and have been attending since the beginning, even though I wasn't a member of the group. And I'll say, if you want to know about coral and what's going on, they're pretty fascinating. That's really good discussions. For this upcoming meeting, we're going to focus our efforts on finalizing the SCA 3, the prioritization list. And then we're going to get into SCA 5, which is looking at the conceptual ecological models, and this other one, hypothesis clusters. Don't ask me what that is. I'm still drinking at the fire. But that's going to be our focus. So hopefully by the end of this meeting, we will have finalized 3, gotten 5 in a position to finalize either at this meeting or soon thereafter. And then, as we mentioned, we got a field trip for this one. And I want to give a thanks to Moat Marine for opening their Key Largo facility for us. So we're going to go and see some of the efforts they're doing as far as educating the public and doing their part at restoring Florida's coral reefs. So this is our roster. You'll see that we are predominantly full, which is great to hear. We do have a vacancy. Our vice chair is vacant. That was vacated by Eric Stavadon. And I just want to thank Eric. He spent a lot of time with me before he left to kind of help me get up to speed of what this group was doing and our priorities and introducing me to all the players. So I want to thank him for that. But we do have that vacancy that we do need to fill. And we have an alternate vacancy there with our U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And with that, that's our update from the Florida coordination team. Are there any questions?
Ed, thank you very much. Doing great work. Appreciate you taking over the chair of this group. I'm looking around the table for questions here. And folks online, go ahead and raise your hands if you have a question. I will ask a question on the output of the SCA 1, 2, 3 up through 5. Is all that being documented and housed on OERI on the Florida Coral Reef Team's website for the public as well?
That is a good question. I know it is all being kept and documented and housed right now. It's on a SharePoint site. I don't believe it's publicly facing at this point. So that's something we will need to work on.
That's something for our team to consider, being in a public venue and having out there. I appreciate that. Anybody else around the room for questions or online? Not seeing any hands online. Okay, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Thank you very much, Ed, for your update. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're going to take a chair for prerogative here and take a 5-minute break before we go to our public comment. Okay, we're back in the room. And for our folks online and anybody in the room, we're going to start our public comment period. And we'd like to encourage folks to keep their public comments to 2 to 3 minutes. I have one card up here, but I do see some other members in the audience. So if we would like to have folks make public comments, please go right ahead and take up in this front seat. We'll take the order. And we'll check online after we take her in the room. Ben Olson, please.
Yeah, if I hold it, or should I just kind of lean over and talk?
Whichever you like, and feel free to be flexible with your 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, just very quickly. I heard something in the meeting. I had a speech prepared, but Word 96 says that public should be given adequate opportunity for input and comment. I'm going to go a little bit over 3 minutes, considering how far ahead we are. I hope you give me that leeway. I'm going to start by paraphrasing Superintendent Ramos speaking about showing how the sausage is made from the May working group meeting. This is a direct quote, but I had to cut some fluff out. Sometimes we have to move forward with making the sausage with what's in front of us. And I understand the need to get it right, but there's an urgency that we should all have to keeping this effort moving forward. Superintendent Ramos said this, but just a few minutes earlier, he was posting about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas visitor center. My family actually knew Miss Stoneman Douglas a little bit. She described my great-grandfather as incredibly stubborn, something that runs in the family. She told my mom this once while my mom was driving her. To be clear, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas would be appalled by the superintendent's statement that she most famously said, "Not enough," to Bob Graham. As the superintendent was reminded in May, the absurd 18-month production time on a FOIA request respective of his communications for work would run in June of this year. The DOI produced nothing. There was no showing how the sausage is made. This comes after the Department of Interior blatantly ignored a request on now former Assistant Secretary of the Interior and a current executive of the Everglades Foundation, Shannon Espinosa's communications. The only FOIA request the DOI did produce upon had 218 out of 300 pages redacted for an Everglades restoration project. It's clear there were significant wrongdoings by current and former DOI staff employees regarding work. Since all administrative abilities to settle this have been exhausted, I see no other option but to sue to compel the release of Pedro and Shannon Espinosa's communications. We're beyond transparency at this point and good faith from the DOI. This malicious timelines and withholdings will be addressed by legal action due to their inability to be honest with the public. I'll be filing the suit myself in short time. I'm going to recommend at the next Everglades Task Force meeting a new accountability subgroup that involves the public directly to review and audit Everglades restoration. I hope some of the honest members of these groups support this as well. This is how we both expedite the process and remove the foul tainted pork that has made it into the sausage that people like Pedro insist has to be used because it's what's in front of us. I'd be happy to work with an accountability subgroup to review everything that has been hidden from the public for years now, especially considering the sheer lengths the DOI has gone to silence me. In that heavily redacted FOIA request, I determined the former regional solicitor ordered the Army Corps to censor my public comments. This is something I'll still address in the future. Before anyone points to SISREP as a check on Everglades restoration, they can only check what is given to them. Works for each and two closable culvert modeling data and evidence of impact to endangered species habitat was deliberately covered up by the Corps' tribal liaison and Seminole tribal representatives under a false claim of ITAC. This is not my opinion. It's verified by communications the Army Corps sent themselves, which I've presented to all of you. There needs to be another check which confirms the validity of information. That starts with a review of communications, an analysis of the process, and independent verification of facts. I drive a truck with 250,000 miles on it. I should be out making money, but I'm here at meetings like this because my family and my neighbors were targeted for 6 years before we were told about a project that would seize rights on our property. That's never going to happen again. This is politics, not restoration, and many of you will admit that behind the scenes when the mics are off. I just want to be very clear based on something I heard today. The Seminole representative mentioned that they're working with water management regularly on culverts into the native area. Those culverts are my great-grandfather's culverts. They've been in place since 1963, 5 years before the West Feeder Canal was built, 5 years before the Larg Canal Wingate Mill built. My great-grandfather's culverts are never going to be closed, certainly not because of politics. We had water management out in May to measure the culverts across our entire property to help with modeling. I'm still waiting on an update on that in September, but the tribe is regularly communicating with them. We're slipping backwards. 3 minutes is not enough time, clearly, to get to the bottom of these issues, but I'm going to keep fighting to figure out the corruption, and I've found a lot of information that I will be bringing in due time. No more behind the scenes, no more closed-door negotiations. Utilize the landowners that have significant expert knowledge inside of these projects. Utilize the members of the public that go into public lands for decades, generations. This is a free tool that can be utilized, especially with a lack of federal funding right now. We can all work together to fix this. I'm here at every meeting trying to help, but it's becoming concerning that we're not being included. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Newton Cook, online, please. Newton. We're going to check back in with you, Newton Cook. Newton Cook, online with your hand up. Newton, we're not hearing you in the room. You might be on mute on your end. All right, not hearing anything. Newton, if you do come back, Newton, please just give a holler. We'll hear you in the room and we'll come back to you. Amy, you just interrupt us, Newton. Amy Castaneda.
I just got the host to send me a message on mute. Sorry. Would you let me go ahead, Newton Cook?
Absolutely, we have time for you.
Okay. Thank you. The host was a little slow. Listen, I hate not to be there. I normally am. Good folks there at this meeting, but I have a problem. 2 years ago, Bassmasters took away the top 10 ranking for Lake Okeechobee for bass fishing. We thought that was bad enough. Not good news. Last week, Lake Okeechobee was declared the dirtiest lake in the United States. It was done with 100 different lakes. It was done with government measurements, and they were compared to each other. And at the end, Lake Okeechobee was determined to be the dirtiest lake in the United States. And it's all over television. What is that going to do to the economics of Central Florida? And you know what? There's absolutely no plan to restore Lake Okeechobee. There's no committee. There's no group. It just sits there. And the fact of the matter is, the South Florida Water Management District, the Corps of Engineers, and the Florida FWC are responsible for Lake Okeechobee. And I cannot get a single one of them to raise their hand and say, yes, we need to form a committee with one objective, and that is to save the heart of the Everglades. How in the world can we call ourselves a science coordination group for the Everglades restoration, and the heart of the Everglades is rated as the dirtiest lake in the USA? And each and every one of those organizations are responsible for that ranking because they've been managing the lake for about 50 years. We need a committee dedicated to Lake Okeechobee. The 3 agencies need to be co-chairmen. They should meet about 3 times a year. Each of those agencies should make a report on just 2 things: the conditions of the lake today and what we're doing about it. Now, here's the problem. We have 500 tons of phosphorus flowing into the lake from the north every year. It's all setting on the bottom in the muck, which incidentally has been flowing into the lake for 50 years since they channelized the Kissimmee. The lake is beautiful. It's in the best condition it's ever been out there today. But the slightest wind, and we are back into a muddy soup. Where does that water go? it goes south into the Everglades. It goes east and west, Caloosahatchee into St. Lucie. And yet we have absolutely nobody working on solving those two major problems. Stopping 500 tons of phosphorus from coming into the lake every year and removing the phosphorus that's on the bottom of the lake that's just full. The muck that's on the bottom of the lake. Where are those projects? I've heard all these projects today. Not a single project for Lake Okeechobee, not one. A little bit of a building of a reservoir north that will be 20 years before it's built. I'll be long gone. Most of the people in this room will be long gone. We got to have that committee, and we need to go to work tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Newton. Amy Castaneda. Amy, you had your hand up? Might have been a clip. All right, seeing no additional public comment online. Last call for public comment online. Anyone with a hand up, Amy? Diamond Bergeron. Diamond
Good
Bergeron.
afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Good afternoon, Diamond. We have you.
Perfect. I just wanted to echo and fully support all of my neighbor Ben Olson's comments today. I was hopeful late last year and earlier this year that the agencies were prioritizing landowner involvement. But I find myself, as do my neighbors, to be completely out of the loop now regarding WIRP. The district held multiple landowner meetings back in, I believe it was January and February of this year. And I was also told by some CMA modelers that the models were close to being done in May. And I have yet to hear anything. I'm just concerned that there's a lack of communication now, which is an issue that we had in the past with landowners in the WIRP footprint. Oh, did it cut out? Sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Checking online for any additional hands. Give people a second here. No additional hands online. That'll be the end of our public comment meeting. And if somebody comes in before we close the meeting out, we will take that comment. Our next steps in closing comments. We have a microphone at the end of each of these tables. We're a small group today. So I'd like our folks at the end just to go ahead and pick them up. And if any members would like to make a closing comment, you can start with the microphone. We'll start right here on the left if you have any closing comments and just move them back this way.
I just want to thank everyone for a great meeting. I think there were great updates. I think we have so much going on at the Water Management District. We're going to have to think about whether we have to do a short intermission in the middle of Mindy's presentation in the future, right? As we have more and more photographs of the exciting construction that we have undergoing. So thanks for a great meeting today.
I don't have any comments, thank you. Yeah, just want to emphasize that this is a great meeting and thank you for everybody's participation.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the updates. Thank you to the speakers for all excellent presentations. I love coming here and getting updated. I know when I first joined this group, I was sort of frustrated and I thought I was supposed to do something. I felt like I was only being talked to. And I've come to appreciate that, Nick. I know that you explained to me the value of me just being informed in that. I really do feel like I get a lot out of these. Just seeing all the great work that's being done and having an opportunity to share it not only amongst ourselves and with the public. So appreciate it. And
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Really helpful I'm representing someone from Florida. I'm sorry I missed the around at the beginning of the meeting, and certainly appreciate the updates that were provided on the way. Highlight that I did want to share with this community is we're excited at Seminole Tribe to be working on a new study that's trying to predict near-term modeling for harmful public rooms utilizing some sensing. So there's a 5-year path that we just underway with. So we should be happy to pass on to the communities on how that's using. Thank you.
I just want to echo my thanks for the meeting today. It was really interesting to hear more about the agreement between Army Corps and the state of Florida. That's really exciting. I've been a little bit out of the loop, so it's really cool to hear about that. And I wish you guys the best of luck. It's a lot of work. I also wanted to reiterate something that I heard a couple of times that I think is really important, and that's the concept of interim operations equals interim benefits and restoration. And I will admit, as somebody who doesn't live and breathe Everglades restoration every day, every moment of my job, I'm one of those people who better communication really helps. And so those take-home messages and continuing to try to help those of us who pop into Everglades every now and then, it's really valuable exercise, even though it is very hard, because I know how complex these things are. So just thank you, and looking forward to seeing some of my colleagues down in the Keys in 2 weeks. Thank you. Just want to say thanks to everyone. It was great to be here in person after I had to be virtual last time, so I appreciate you being here all in person. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that it's amazing to see all the hard work that's getting done and how close we are on some of our projects. It's really good to see, especially Pinky and Strand, ECW, we are almost there. That's so exciting. And while we are almost completing that, the ending of one thing is the beginning of another. So we'll be working hard on monitoring and making sure the projects are performing correctly. And it's exciting to see all of that. So thanks for all the updates from everybody. Appreciate it.
I'll just echo the previous comments.
I just want to thank all the presenters. I know that's it's hard work to prepare the slides and to summarize all the what's happening within your agencies. So thank you for your effort.
Yeah, and I'll just second, obviously, a great productive discussion today, and we'll highlight again the past 2 days with the workshops that were put together. I think it's just a tremendous effort from a variety of folks. Presenters today were terrific. Mindy, always a great presentation. We love seeing those B&Ps and all those pictures. So great stuff there. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. Thank you to our presenters, and I look forward to maybe seeing you all December 9th.
Just want to thank the OER staff for the meeting today and for the 2 workshops this week. I wasn't able to attend due to commitments, but the feedback I'm getting from my team was there was very good discussions, a lot of good information. And I know Chad Kennedy would be proud, because that was always his wish that the science coordination group would have more science opportunities. So thank you for making that happen.
Thank you, everybody, for joining today, and I appreciate that. Adam, I want to say I appreciate your staff and the way they put everything. You take the effort, and they take the effort to get it out there on the web in those formats. We heard from multiple people that they might check back in on the YouTube videos. I know for myself, I watched one. In fact, I missed the Florida Bay panel discussion at the end of the meeting because I had other commitments, and I did take that in this morning. So that housing of the data in the virtual world is used by our members. And we've heard many times from our stakeholders, and I'm going to give a shout out to Newton Cook. Newton Cook has come to the podium many times and said the consolidated updates in one space, in one room, is very handy and very helpful. And I think we just heard from our members, we agree with that. The consolidated updates are good. So thank you for all the work that goes into that. I think Adam and I may be reaching out to some of you along the way too, between the next meetings for membership and enrollment. We acknowledge some of the open spaces we have. Some of them are able to be filled, and some of them are in the wing, and some of them are potentially being filled as we speak. But we may be reaching out to discuss that. And from there, Adam, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks, James. Yeah, this working group light session today. Good to get the update, get together face to face. It's always a benefit. So looking forward, besides the IFP information and starting to plan for a task force meeting in December, staying positive in that direction. Hearing some great stuff out of the USDA, ARS, some upcoming great new information and biocontrols coming out of there. Not officially yet, we're waiting on that. We'll get back into the invasive species topics. Look forward to hearing more about the second periodic survey update, as well as the IDS at the next task force meeting. To get into some of the minutia, we'll try to work on trying to find a way to get those SCRCT topics up on the web that you spoke about. I did review the last couple of days of agendas, meetings, and a lot of the presentations are there. We will work towards populating those after the fact. It was pretty fast moving right there at the end, and that was challenging at that time. As we move into this, with a lot of the work going on in 3A, 3B, and water moving south, as we change these operations, maybe for short periods of time, I hope that we have the memory when we go back to those of the existing conditions baselines, right? And so that's been one of the topics that we've struggled with recently, and that restoration can have that memory, but also having that certainty of when we would not be or moving back to that original water control plan or that next future existing conditions. I think years ago, Jennifer, you always said, well, when we get one built, there's always that next one, right? There's that next thing to do, that next thing to do. And hopefully maybe one day we'll envision that. I think also one of the other things I've heard since day one 7 years ago is putting water into Northeast Shark River Slough equals putting it into the Florida bed. And while there's project specific for that, and that became very clear during this last workshop, very clear, right? Some of the maps that Chris Madden had up of wet season versus dry season and the effects of, water wrapping around or lack thereof, and staying focused on that. And I know you all are, right? I know we are, and how we get there. So just some of the other takeaways from today. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Adam. We'll look to the virtual world. If anyone online would like to make a closing comment, any of our science coordination group or working group members, please raise your hand at this time, and I'll call you in the way your hand is raised. All right. All good. Thank you all for joining the meeting. With that, we'll call the meeting adjourned.